My mom used to take us out harvesting. We'd get plums and choke cherries. And the hardest one was always the grapes. They get so high up in the trees, and my mom would always tell us to go up there in the trees and get the grapes. And we'd be climbing up in there, and she's like, no, further, to your right or to your left. And we'd pick them up and drop them off, and just crazy stuff, hanging from a tree, you know, hanging from a vine. It's just goofy. These plants, and we have a native hop species. Yeah, here. From this point, I mean, we've got so many vines in here. I think it's a plum tree and a chokecherry tree underneath these grapes. So, I mean, just the idea of, I really like these. I don't want to be hanging from a tree or going through so much brush to get my little grapes. The best jam ever. You guys don't even know.
We bought this property back in 2010. So teaming up with other entities on the reservation, other groups that have a focus on community gardening. So there's big possibilities, and there's a lot of dreams of a lot of people coming together.
For me, it was slightly difficult. I can trample in, I can create this whole mess in here of squishing all these other plants that are usable. Why don't we just make it accessible? Why don't we just make it easier? Nature is absolutely beautiful, but as people age, as our bodies break down, it gets harder to get to these places.
And what can be grown and what can be gotten for the people here is so big. Not only the traditional plants like tomatoes and carrots and radishes, the indigenous plants that have been on these reservations for years, the chokecherries, the buffalo berries, the wild plums, the wild grapes. People make medicines of these, and we want to bring all that back because the elders on this reservation are eager to see that happen and to teach their kids and their grandkids the possibilities of being a healthy nation again.
So we want to create this space that goes through here with an edible landscape, keeping in mind the disabilities that people have. When you have a whole bunch of chokecherries together or a whole bunch of plums together, they're smaller and they're harder to get to. If you clear them out a little bit, you can transplant them, you can move them, and then they'll grow into smaller trees that someone could easily go up into with a wheelchair, and they could just reach up and get the branches that are hanging low and the fruit that's hanging low, you know. This is gonna be beautiful in here, Ted.
I know.
Yeah, we're looking at a minimum of 4 feet. 5 feet would be great. That's as tall as I am. So I had him go through here and identify certain things that inhibit our walkway. So all of the stuff, thinking about light. People love to sit underneath the cottonwood trees and with the wind whistling through it. So then that's healing, right?
Yes.
This is a great little area of light, and we've got the terracing coming down. We want to ideally keep it as flat as possible for, I mean, it'd be kind of hard to wheelchair up there.
Sure.
But is it a possibility that we can level that out a little bit over there? Because then we get into a beautiful site where you just build a bent wood archway, and then they can just sit there for a moment and rest their arms if they're wheeling through, right? I mean, the way that just looks, you know? Little kids love to make forts out of, right?
Brings back old memories.
It's just, sure it does. So creating those little spaces in there, you know, Grandpa's coming out with his little kids, they can run through on that side up there too. All the burdock, that's a very usable plant, so we can harvest all of those and make a medicine out of the root.
What medicine do we get out of burdock?
It's a cleanser, a blood cleanser.
Is it like a, put it in a...
Or you make a tea.
A tea? Oh.
Yeah, so you wash it, dry it. You can grind it, make it into a tea.
As far as plants that we see that may irritate skin and things like that, do we see anything?
I haven't seen anything at all. It's been beautiful. Not a one.
That's a plus.
Yeah,
we
huge
do
plus.
see a lot of nice things like these.
Yes. So, okay, so when we're thinking about accessibility on this, this is a nice little plant. He's about 1, right? So he can stay and he can grow into a little tree or a little shrubby. So ideally the pathway would come up pretty close to this. So if someone's wheeling in, imagine if, let's say if they're in a wheelchair, they're about this height. Okay, they can reach. You can prune the top of it so it grows out instead of up. Because our pathway should come out to about here.
We're still feeding ourselves as we walk along.
Exactly. So slowing people down on a meander versus just going straight through. But a meander is nice, but also it's going to affect their mental, emotional, and spiritual health. They'll be happy here. They'll be at peace here. Because even that physical activity of them going through here, you got to make it easy enough that they can be successful, hard enough that they can feel like they accomplished something, right?
And get some
exercise.
exercise.
And exercise, and that gives them oomph. It builds that resiliency, right?
Yeah,
You know.
there's a lot of useful plants in here that can be used in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
This is a very difficult place to grow food. By using these principles of creating more of a natural system and figuring that out, then you have a potential of much less failure. They capture carbon instead of creating more. There's been studies now that show that they can produce as much yield as the commercial agriculture. So there's a lot of hope in that.
I don't know, it's a traditional plant species. These have been with us for a long time, and then it's been replaced with commodities off of a back of a truck. May I please have more? You know, our rations, our monthly rations, that's what we get. And we've gotten away from what we used to be. These are healthy. Way healthier than what's coming in a can, what's coming off of the back of a truck, what's packaged, what's processed. And then with physical health comes mental health. If you're low in vitamin D because you're not eating the right foods or you're not getting enough sun, right, that lowers your mood. Depression can start setting in from that. So a lot of these fruits and natural things that we've evolved with over however long we've been on this continent, this is what we grew with. This is how we evolved with these plants. They're important to us. We can bring that food back to people.